Bevy 0.16 is out now. Check out the official release notes, my unofficial Bevy 0.16 video, as well as the 0.15 to 0.16 migration guide. Expect a slight lull before things pick back up again on the pull request merge queue for 0.17 and enjoy the new Bevy 0.16 features for a bit. Many ecosystem creators have participated in the release candidate process and thus already have 0.16 compatible versions on crates.io. Some maintainers wait for the stable release, so give them some time if they haven't gotten one out yet. Much of the ecosystem is volunteer-based after all, or give them a hand and submit a PR. There will be a Bevy game jam for 0.16, although official dates have not been announced. If you're trying to plan for the jam, loosely consider the first week of June, but wait for the official announcement to make any concrete plans. And we do have a PR to talk about this week that's 18.899, which introduces a new entity commands remove if function, which can be used in a typical chain of entity commands. This basically means if you have commands.entity or any number of commands after that, you can remove a bundle if a condition is matched. And with that, we're directly into the showcases with Triangulated Coastlines. These are coastlines built using adaptive iteration Delaunay triangulation. The resolution for this increases at boundary points, and Spade is used in the implementation, which is a Rust crate for triangulation. And there's a little bit of compression artifacting, especially when it's dark, but this is atmosphere and voxels. A preview of a voxel game with a modular world gen framework, it now has gained an atmosphere as well, which is also a feature that came to Bevy 0.16. And this 3D piano game was made with Bevy Kira audio and deployed on the web. It supports mouse input, keyboard input, MIDI input, and MIDI file playback. And this is an attempt at a compute shader-based rasterizer described in Every Strand Counts, physics and rendering behind Frostbite's hair, which we've included a link to on the website. The shading model is the full Weta model, and the asset in the video has greater than 160,000 strands with greater than 6 million segments. And this is some shader documentation for Bevy that was just updated to 0.16. It uses analysis of the WGSL files in the Bevy repo to show which functions you can use in WGSL files, as well as which data structures exist, like vertex output. There's also a sneak preview of what shader documentation could look like in the Weasel future, that's WESL, which again is mentioned in the Bevy 0.16 release notes. And then we've got a stress test of Bevy Ratatouille camera in 3D dungeon crawler form. The game runs in the terminal using Bevy and Ratatouille, and the demo was recorded in an Alacrity terminal. Next up, we've got shmupsiepoo, which is an open source shoot 'em up, currently built without additional ecosystem crate dependencies. It makes use of Kenny assets for the asteroids and the ships. And as you can see here, it is open source if you want to go check it out or run it yourself. It does require nightly rust though. And here we've got Finding Number, which is a game aimed at children to enable learning how to count. AeroNet was used in this case for LAN style networking. And inspired by old school text-based games, this console style Bevy project makes each command an event that is triggered when parsed. The code for how this is accomplished is shared in the Discord thread. And then we've got an Emulator and ASM visualizer or assembly visualizer. This is for a custom CPU architecture. There's a 32 by 32 screen that you can use to write to using a special instruction. The goal of the project is to be an educational resource for people who might also want to go down this path. And then we've got some fun visuals in a perk for this shooter game, which makes projectiles bounce to nearby enemies. The example makes use of Bevy Ballistic, which is a fairly recent crate release, for calculating projectile launch angles. And this is a work in progress attempt at building a realistic ocean simulator. The end goal is to build something that approximates the Sea of Thieves water, and the demo here is a 3x3 grid of ocean chunks representing about 400 meters of waves. And Abalone is a 2-player abstract strategy board game, and this is an implementation in Bevy using avian physics, Bevy Hanabi, and some custom WGSL. It's currently available for download on Windows. And this author's previous work on destructible planets has given way to destructible walls, including the ability to match the texture to the pre-broken wall locations. Drexls Tower Defense got an update, which is a Fog of War shader implementation. Drexls Tower Defense is intended to become a hexagonal tile online multiplayer co-op tower defense. And Dark Wisp Tower Defense has been open sourced while the author's focus is elsewhere, so that people might be able to make use of the code as a learning device. The development thread, which is linked in the Discord post, includes the development progress since November 2024, and this YouTube video shows off the gameplay. And finally, for our showcases, we've got UFO Snowboard Adventure, which is an endless runner in a space setting with a snowboarding theme. It was recently published on itch.io and is playable in browsers. And that brings us into the crate section with Bevy Mod GBA. Bevy Mod GBA provides integration between Bevy and the AGB crate, allowing for relatively painless Game Boy Advance development. The Game Boy Advance demo in the 0.16 release notes was built using the release candidate version of this crate. Meanwhile, Bevy Mod Audio is most useful for adding voice chat. You just have to wire up the audio packets to and from it. Check out the example in the Git repo if you want to actually make use of this crate. And then we've got Bevy Sprite Ultra. Bevy Sprite Ultra allows you to hot reload Sprite animations and slices directly from binary. 0.5 brings support for custom shaders and asset processing. Compile Sprite files to custom formats for shipping. Bevy eGUI provides an eGUI integration for the Bevy game engine. 0.34 brings multipass support, which includes a breaking change. This adds a new Enable Multipass for Primary Context field to eGUI plugin, and you should check out the documentation for the migration guide. Bevy Query Extension is a collection of types used to simplify how components are used in queries by implementing Bevy's query data on generics. There are some examples of how you would use this in the README, as well as a list of types that are implemented. Bevy Picking State Machine is an opinionated global state machine for Bevy picking that serves as a drop-in replacement for picking interaction, mouse button inputs, and window pointer. While Bevy Spawn Observer provides a spawn observer to add to Bevy 0.16 spawn, spawn with, and spawn iter. If you're not sure what these spawn APIs are, there is an explainer video for how to spawn things in Bevy 0.16, which is also mentioned in this issue. Bevy Cursor Kit lets you load cursor assets in various formats and use them as custom cursor icons. 0.4.7 takes advantage of the new Bevy 0.16 support for texture atlases in custom cursor images, which results in supporting animated cursors. Bevy Enhanced Input 0.10 and 0.11 are out. Bevy Enhanced Input is an input manager for Bevy, inspired by Unreal Engine Enhanced Input. 0.10 and 11 enable an easy upgrade path from Bevy 0.15 to 16, and it brings a more flexible axial preset, replacing the gamepad stick, introduces a clamp modifier, brings no standard support, and includes per context schedule configuration, which can be useful for networking. And Skein, which, full disclosure, is my own crate, is a Rust crate and a Blender add-on that combine to allow inserting components in Blender and instantiating them in Bevy when spawning GLTF scenes. Bevy Skein 0.2, the Rust crate, and Blender add-on 0.1.6 introduce defaults and presets, where you can use default implementations when inserting components and allow users to supply arbitrary presets. It's also distributed as an extension on the Bevy Skein docs site, which can serve for auto-updating inside of Blender. And the first CLI command, dump component data, which is the first in a series of migration toolings for working with reflection data. And finally, bevy-tnua 0.23. Bevy-tnua is a floating character controller, and 0.23 brings a new obstacle radar which can be used to implement wall sliding, wall jumping, and climbing. And in the educational section this week, we've got how to spawn objects in Bevy 0.16, which covers introductory level spawn APIs, including the new children and related macros, as well as the spawn, spawn with, spawn iter APIs. And that's it for this week. As you can see on the website, we've got a small set of PRs that were merged, but there were also some that were opened and issues that are opened if you want to get involved. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next one.